Do you worry that spending too much early in retirement could drain your savings? Studies show that most retirees leave behind far more money than they ever planned to, not because they had to, but because they were afraid to spend. So in this video, I'll show you why spending carefully doesn't have to mean spending less, what the data really shows about retirement spending, and how to build a plan to make your money count while you can still enjoy it. First, let me show you what makes so many retirees scared to spend money when they retire. This chart shows two investors who each invested $1 million in 1998. The only difference is timing. Investor A invests in January and Investor B in August. 20 years later, Investor A ends with over $4 million, while Investor B finishes closer to 3.5. Timing hurt Investor B, but both still had great results. Now, look at this next chart. Same investors, but this time they're each withdrawing $5,000 per month or $60,000 a year. And that one small change has a massive impact. Investor A makes it through the full period with some money left. Investor B runs out completely after just 14 years. But here's what makes this even worse. Both were taking out what most people would say is a safe amount. This table shows withdrawal rates on the left and retirement durations across the top. If we look at a 6% withdrawal rate over a 20-year retirement, there's about an 87% chance of success. And if we shorten that to 15 years, the odds climb to 98%. In other words, the math said this plan should have been almost bulletproof. But for Investor B, those odds didn't matter. They still ran out of money in year 14. So it's no wonder retirees are afraid to spend. If you get the timing wrong, your whole plan collapses. And as real as this fear is, what most people don't realize is that retirement doesn't actually work the way they imagine. Most people picture their expenses rising every year, higher costs, higher withdrawals, and that if their portfolio drops, they won't be able to keep up. But when JP Morgan analyzed over 280,000 households to see what their spending actually looks like through retirement, they found something completely different. Even after adjusting for inflation, look at what happens over time. Spending drops steadily as people move through their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Over this period, prices rose by about 2.9% a year. But retirees' spending grew by only 1.8%, a full percentage point less than inflation. That means even as life got more expensive, retirees were actually spending less. So if retirees are spending less than they planned, what happens to all that money they don't spend? The Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond looked into this exact question, and the study's title says it all. Why do people save during retirement? After 10 years in retirement, the median household's wealth increased by about 5%. In other words, even after retirees stop working, their savings usually don't go down, they go up. And that raises an obvious question. If their wealth keeps growing, why don't they just start spending more? Well, there's a reason they don't, one that shows up in nearly every retiree's life. It's called the retirement spending smile. In the early years, retirees are healthy, active, and finally have time for travel, family, and the hobbies they've always put off. That's the high point on the left side of this curve. As the years go on, life naturally slows down. The big trips and projects fade, routines get simpler, and most people find they just don't want or need to spend as much. That's the dip in the middle. Then, near the end, healthcare costs pick up a bit, and that's the rise on the right side. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are seasons to your life, and some cost more than others. But your ability to enjoy experiences declines faster than your ability to fund them. So when retirees hold back during those early years, they don't just protect their money. They miss the chance to enjoy the experiences they saved their entire lives for. And the data shows exactly how that story usually ends. The National Bureau of Economic Research found that nearly half of retirees die with more money than they had when they entered retirement. Now, if your goal is to leave every dollar untouched for the next generation, that's perfectly fine. But for most retirees, that's not the plan. And yet, that's exactly what ends up happening. And it's not their fault. The retirement advice everyone's been told to follow practically guarantees this, even when it's not what people really want. In fact, A 2025 Alliance study found that 64% of Americans say they worry more about outliving their savings than about death itself. So it's no surprise that many turn to something that promises safety, the 4% rule. The idea is simple. If you withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, history says your money would have lasted through every 30-year period in the past century. On paper, that seems like the perfect solution to the biggest fear retirees have. But what actually happens when you follow it? Retirement expert Michael Kitces looked at the same 30-year periods that created the 4% rule. And the results might surprise you. Let's say you started with $1 million. On average, you didn't just keep it. You finished with almost $3 million. In fact, only about 1 out of 10 retirees ended with less than they started with. And here's the craziest part. You're just as likely to finish with $6 million as you are to end with less than 1. When a strategy leaves most retirees with 2 or 3 times what they started, that's not conservative. That's broken. And even the man who invented the 4% rule admits it's outdated. Bill Bengen, the financial planner who came up with the rule back in the 90s, recently released a book. And you know what it's about? Why he now believes his own rule may be too conservative. Markets are different and retirees are living differently. Rigid, one-size-fits-all rules don't fit anymore. He now talks about a flexible approach, one that helps you stay confident and still make your money last. And the research backs it up. Morningstar found that retirees who use this flexible strategy were able to spend 30 to 40% more over retirement while keeping the same chance of success as the traditional 4% rule. That means it isn't riskier, just smarter. Now, let's put that into perspective. If you plan to spend $100,000 per year, this strategy could let you start retirement spending $130,000 to $140,000 without saving more or working a day longer. And that timing matters. Those early years of retirement are when you're healthiest, most active, and finally have time for the things you've been wanting to do. That's when your money has the most utility. Remember the retirement spending smile we looked at earlier? Wait too long, and the window to use that money the way you dreamed of starts to close. So how do you use this new strategy that can transform your retirement? Think of your retirement plan like the speedometer in your car. If you're up in the red, it's stressful. You could burn out your engine. But barely press the gas and you'll never get anywhere. The goal is to stay right in that middle range. And that's exactly what this strategy helps you do. Here's how it works. We start by figuring out how much you can safely spend based on your income, portfolio, and goals. From there, we set 2 limits, a ceiling and a floor. The ceiling is when your portfolio grows enough that you can comfortably give yourself a raise, usually about 10%. The floor is the opposite. If markets drop and your balance hits that level, you reduce spending slightly, again, around 10%. Now, let's look at how that works in practice. Say you retire with a $1 million portfolio and plan to spend about $7,000 a month, including other income. If your portfolio grows to $1.1 million, your spending increases to about $7,500 per month. But if it drops to $800,000, you'd lower spending to $6,500. These small adjustments make a huge difference. They protect you in down markets and reward you when things go well. And because the plan is already in place, there's no guesswork or guilt. You stay between the boundaries. What we found is that having these clear targets gives retirees incredible freedom. You can plan the extra trips or gifts when the market's strong and know exactly what you'll scale back if it isn't. No surprises, just confidence and control. So now you've seen what really happens in retirement. People spend less than they thought, portfolios often grow, and running out of money is rarely the real risk. By using this flexible spending strategy, you can enjoy your retirement more without adding any risk. But here's what usually happens next. Once your plan starts moving with the market, every market drop feels like your entire retirement is at risk. You see your balance drop and start wondering, do I need to adjust right now? Or is this the start of something bigger? If that sounds familiar, watch this next. It's the data that will stop you from worrying about market swings and help you stay confident, no matter what the headlines say.